sometimes it's like I'll just be sitting here and it'll be like, what the fuck do I do? I'm just like goofing off and shit, and I'm just like, what should I do? And it's like, well, you have all that reading you can tackle, and I'm like, that's not a checkbox online. Where's my Bing Bing Wahoo? That sounds painful. It sounds like a pain in the ass, in the head, in the eyes. And then I'm like, well, I do need stream content, so I come back here. There. Put on my glasses. The optometrist says I have to wear my glasses. They can't see without my glasses. Welcome back, everybody, to Productivity Maximization Index, brought to you by BXF20XX, the Boxfucker RPG. Today, we're gonna knock this one out. It's done. It's over. We're gonna kill it right here. Oh. No, man, you don't want to swallow something's up. All right. I don't have water. Why did I start this without water? All right, give me 2 seconds. You saw What's up, rats? We're back. All right. The goal is simple. We get to page 185. Okay? It's simple. It's so simple. You might even say it's shrimple. That's a little shrimp humor for you guys. That's what you get here on Productivity Maximization Index. Dude, I get 40 hours a week to work on my assignments, okay? I have 40 hours a week. All right. It's easy right now, right? And I knew it'd be easy. The only reason I decided to do 20 units was because you know, I'm at community college taking 100, 200 level classes, right? Like what are they going to do? Make me think? Yeah, obviously. And that's something I'm like learning to manage. The less I think, the more work I get done, but also the less I think, the less I stay on task. It's a real conundrum. You gotta find balances in life. That's why everyone's been telling you to start meditation, because you're supposed to sit there without falling asleep. Okay? So, yeah. Everyone says they're good at it. but they're here. And you know what? The high skill players are here. All right, and that's how it goes. All right. For real though. Yeah, man. I got home at like 3 today. What is it? 8? So I lost 5 of my 40 hours. Of course, I worked between classes, but it's like, so I make up a few there, right? But it's like, still, I don't want to do that. Not all the time. I think after this weekend, I'll be caught up. But, man, like, I'm behind on reading. I missed like 2 math assignments. But that was just kind of like because of like a freak thing with a class that assigned like 2 books worth of like reading assignments in the first like 3 weeks, which is like, it's a 100 level class. Like, dude, I need to go over the foundations, you know? Like, I'm discovering this for myself as you're telling it to me. You know, if I was taking 12 units this semester, it'd be a different story, wouldn't it? But taking 20 units, that's really hard. Like I said, he's agreed to give me like sort of not personal tutoring sessions, but he's told me where he goes after class, so I can basically just highlight things and hand him take notes on these little note cards. Like a rich kid, and it feels good. Anyways, feels good. Like, let's move on. Let's get into this. We're talking about colonialism, and we're talking about, so we talked about, the first section's called the portrait of the colonizer. There we go. First section's called the portrait of the colonizer. Why am I so wiggly? The first section is called the portrait of the colonizer, right? And like basically like to put it succinctly, these people live in a world of contradictions, knowingly, because they understand that it gets them personal power. These aren't people who want to recreate society. These aren't people who want to accommodate. These aren't people who want to be the best of the best, right? These are people who are happy living a life of lies, practicing the lie to themselves and others, and practicing contradiction as a lifestyle to create stress for colonized people. Okay? A colonizer's goal isn't to be profitable. A colonizer's goal isn't to dominate or completely control the colonized. Even the colonizer's goal is to go there, look good, sound stupid, and hold down a spot until more colonialists are sent to the colony. If the colonizer can be this horrific bimbo and send back goods to the motherland, which they respect as long as they're not around, then colonialists will be sent there, and the colonizer expects this to improve the living conditions, but what he soon realizes is that the colonialist is a better national than he. And so he subjects the colonialist to this colonizer mindset, to this self-contradictory bimbo mindset. So that the colonialists themselves is faced with a juncture in which they must leave the colony or become the colonizer, right? Because the colonizer's ultimate goal there is to reject the reality of the colonized people and replace it with his own. He is there to erase their memories, erase their history, and rewire their personality so that the state that the colonizer represents gains dominion. The colonizer becomes a heroic example for the colonized. The colonizer looks up to these heroic examples, and imprints a psychology upon people in which they quickly rise through the ranks in this globalist fashion, by following the colonizer's example. The colonizer is paranoid. The colonizer believes that the state is smarter than him, something divine, even, that sends him messages in strange ways. The function of this is this sort of panoptic mindset, in which the dominion created by colonial powers extends into every living moment of the colonizer. This prevents these colonial powers from ever being usurped, because when faced with the hard questions of life, all they have to look towards is the status quo. So if the absolute ruling family sent you here, they're gonna stay the absolute ruling family, and that's why they sent you here, right? Now, obviously, there's more nuance to this. Like, there's military traditions, like brotherhoods, like fraternity, these sort of backroom deals, things like the Chinese warlord system, where these pockets of power appear around various mythological systems or various like transactional relationships that psychologically mold these dominions of warlords. Now, why is violence important? Well, violence is what keeps these colonized people who represent a majority from ever raising a hand to the colonizer. They can never self-actualize. Sorry, they can never self-transcend for the colony, or to emancipate themselves from the colony, right? They don't attempt to wage war, right? Because they're outmanned, outmoraled, and they face internal conflicts. Because, like I said, one of the colonizer's main missions, the main mission of the colonizer, is to replace the reality of other people with the reality of the colonizer. That is the augmented survival that the colonizer imposes in order to keep to uphold the dominion of the state that they represent. Maybe you've heard terms like Uncle Tom. Maybe you're a chud or something. We see this where the line between colonized and colonizer is very, very fine, right? And then we have this discussion of colonialists. Well, the author argues that there are no true colonialists, only colonizers, because once you're there, you benefit from representing the divine right of the state. That's how the English system works. That's how the church-driven Spanish system works. The French did it. Who else? English, Spanish, French. I'm missing one. That's tough. Don't remember what the last major colonial power in the New World was. But yeah, you sort of see the lines blur here, and there's this question: is there a true colonialist? Is there someone who like simply works and does this? Well, no. Because it is by laying low, it is by performing these jobs that they once again set the example for the colonized people who have to make some sense of the colonizer's logic. So what is this world that the colonizer is replacing these people's world with, right? I said it's a world of contradiction. So what could be so contradictory about this, right? We're talking about racism. We're talking about classism. We're talking about things like divine right, like the right of a royal family to rule, right? And we're talking about all the roles in society that were built up in Europe to uphold these positions of power. It doesn't make sense. The colonist economy doesn't make sense except to uphold a type of hegemony that lends itself to this authoritarianism. The roles are very rigid, they're ritualistic, and they're sort of like these remnants of the reign of the Holy Roman Empire way back in times that I fail to remember. I think the Holy Roman Empire was most zealous in its expansion, like in the 700s? 700 AD, something like that. Don't look at that. All right. 800s. Yeah, 800s. 1800. What are you saying? Yeah, the 800s. Okay. 800s to 900s. Middle Ages, pre-Dark Ages. No, during the Middle Ages, pre-Dark Ages. And so we see this sort of like these sort of different theories of like cultural replacement becoming these colonial powers throughout the world. And so by facing people with these strange logics, like I run this shit because I am white, or I run this shit because I am Spanish. I'm 2 shades lighter than you. So I have right. That's like the physical sign for which you know that I am more sovereign than you. How did this happen? Well, of course, it's because my grandmother married a Moor, and or my great grandmother married a Moor, and a white Spaniard was so graceful as to accept them into their home, because the Moors had to be driven out somehow, and the only way to do this is through lineage and through the purification, the reconquering of the race through this lineage. And so, yeah, I don't know. You're kind of all right. You're kind of weird. Maybe if you're lucky, someone will come around. Maybe if you're really devout. Maybe if you're a really devout Catholic, someone of lighter skin will take pity upon you and maybe introduce you to someone, and maybe you can show your worth in noble life and marry in, and then your grandchildren can enjoy the kind of sovereignty that I enjoy inherently by being this. I'm closer to God. I'm closer to the land. I'm closer to uh anything important in society by virtue of this racial difference. That's what these people are being told, like on a daily basis. Whether or not they believe it causes tension within their own societies. um so it's a method of replacing someone's culture, replacing someone's logic, right? Because not everyone's a fucking winner, not everyone's a fucking fighter. Okay, there are going to be people who are going to be like, that makes a lot of sense, actually. I think I'm just going to do this instead. um I'm gonna sell you guys out because you like bullied me or something, or you know uh hey man, like I'm actually the son of a previous docking party some 20 years ago. So I mean, like I'm kind of like you guys. They kind of treat me like shit, but like, I'm gonna keep with it. And honestly, you and me, twin, we could both make it if we just like stick to it and like be really devout Catholics and like do all this stuff. Or like in England, it's like that. It's like, are you fucking white? I don't think you can smell correctly, and you're a fucking thief, so let me check a few things about you. Maybe if you weren't such a fucking aberration on the land, you wouldn't be such a fucking problem for me. And then they, beat and murder and kill these people until more Englishmen come and start to replace their roles, and they say, why don't you fuck off? You wanted this land in the first place. Why don't you go cultivate lands farther west? I don't care if these are your ancestral lands. Fuck off. And they tell people to do this, and it fucks with them like intensely. It's like, well, you're quite well spoken. I have to say, you are actually a native of decent character. Thank you for ratting out your friends who were attempting to wrest some goods from my camp. God, I wouldn't have had Monday tea. Here, you may be my slave, and maybe one day I'll let you lick my boot. You may taste the fine leather. That's the kind of system that's happening. And of course, while this is happening, there's wars happening between the colonial powers that sort of define this, like, manifest the outcomes of like all these wars that came from like Manifest Destiny, and all the conflicts of that were a consequence of colonialism. Wait one sec, be right back. Now, while the figures are kind of hazy, I know a lot of people don't believe, like, okay, well, why don't they just accept this civility? I mean, why don't they just take what they learn from these colonialists and apply it to their own society so that they can live competitive and better lives? Well, that's the goal, right? Because these people are uh they have established trade routes. They have established material culture. They understand what's fair for them. They're conservationists, and they kind of rely on this like oral history and this understanding of the land and all of these relics and symbols left by their ancestors to survive. And so these colonial powers come over, they strip mine, they drain lakes, they chop down forests to expand food fields. They completely demolish any sort of semblance of a good life for these people, so they're crippled in that way. If they try to apply the colonial life, these are people coming on ships. They deconstruct the ship to create a garrison, to create like a port so that they can continue to receive supplies from overseas using mining techniques and gathering techniques that were just inconceivable to these people because of how destructive they were to the land. We're talking about populations going from somewhere in the magnitude of like 7 million people across the US dwindling down to 1.25 million people by the end of Manifest Destiny. This was a genocide. If you're wondering what the fuck happened, that's what was happening while you were getting fucking killed. Okay? That's colonialism. Where the fuck are my glasses? That's the imperial system. That's the state of capitalism in the 1800s, 1700s when this is going down. Consumerism came over the horizon. People became overcome by their easy access to vices. We're in a post-expansion era in England in particular. People are the survivors and descendants of people who came up in an era with unspeakable amounts of child mortality, disease. We're talking about the bubonic plague. There's all this stuff happening in Europe, all these destructive things, and these are the descendants of destruction. They're already a conquered people, the kings and queens of the land. Uh, the Holy Roman Empire swept through, and Christianity overtook every other belief system. People who believed in alternative systems were hunted down, and their lands and temples were defiled in a similar way to the natives. These are downtrodden, beaten people who have adapted to this sort of cycle of life. We're talking about work camps like the size of your mother. Like we're talking about people like um drinking themselves to death on like absinthe and dying in fucking pleasure cities while people in boats go around spear fishing for the bodies. We're talking about the invention of the steam engine. We're talking about all these crazy things happening during this like 18th 19th century era, and what was leading up to that was this. And it happened during this era. Colonialism was a part of Manifest Destiny. Like I said, where the fuck? I'm looking for something. I have my glasses. I have the text. What do I need? What am I missing? My note card. Where's my note card? My pen. Okay. Um. Yeah, like it's crazy. It's crazy what happens to these people. Um. Their memory is being erased. Their way of life is being erased. They're acting upon contradiction, which has basically the psychological effect of um how would I put this? It puts people in a cycle of pain and relief um that people start to attribute a certain like divinity of the state to. Sorry, that took a lot longer than I thought it would. Also, I ended up making this cheese turkey. I might eat that tomorrow. I don't know. Anyway, You're all smiles. Sit on the couch. Oh, you're so good. There you go. Oh. Tell me more. Tell me. What do you think? What do you want? If I open that door, are you gonna come back in? She's bugging, dude. She is like doing that thing she does when she acts like a desperate animal, dude. Like, real. Because I'm weak. Here. But together we are strong. Alright, there we go. Alright. Anyway. So, what was I talking about? Yeah, this is a tool for genocide. This isn't a tool for sustainable societies. This is a tool for throwing your trash out, dividing political parties at home. This is a tool for making quick money and occupying land before greater forces can attempt to do so. You want to know why the Chinese didn't send their own? Probably. I don't know. But if I had to guess, it probably had something to do with internal military conflicts and their deep, deep history of that. China couldn't be a colonial power. You know, maybe they just never told them. They were never like, well, there's this new world. Spies would say something, but you know. The Chinese are already so mean. Why would you want to be a Chinese spy? You know, I mean, take the information for granted. Yeah, those colonies would have gone nuts. Those colonies would have gone crazy. They would have been one of their own, like in no time, with a lot of Mexican opium. You know why worry about the world that could have ended? Instead, worry about the world that's ending now. What was that? So that's Portrait of the Colonizer. It's that and more. There's like just a few other small details that I didn't necessarily go over. Um it's like the perfect excuse. Anyways, the Portrait of the Colonized is what we're reading right now. We're maybe halfway through the section. Starts on 20. Yeah, we're not even like that deep into the section, but he's already talking about a lot. Let's see how much we can recall. So there's. Can you shut the fuck up? Smelling dog. Bees? Good. I'm not about to feed my dog fucking bread and cheese. Down. Down. Okay. So lay down. Sit. Okay, but you have to agree to an interview. If you agree to an interview, I'll feed you something, okay? Sit. Sit. Speak. Want. Alright. Anyways. I gotta mic her up one of these days. She has so much to say. But she doesn't like it when I point the mic at her face. She doesn't like things being pointed at her face. Yeah, that's fine. You can do that. Look at her. She's nuts. She looks feral. Beast. I don't know why, but she just like, she started flipping out over her food. Let's wait for her to make a plea and then do something about it. Let's see. Some notes here, maybe to jog my memory. Those who have lived through 107. Those who have lived through it, that colonialism, it's a variety of fascism. It is impossible to save the colonized from this myth. That sounds interesting. What's that? A protectorate. Right. They're saving them from themselves.
Whenever the colonizer adds, in order not to fall prey to anxiety, that the colonized is a wicked backward person with. Oh yeah, so the colonized is like this guilty person. They feel terrible for what they are. They're made to feel terrible for what they are. And a lot of them are children. This is what you have to understand about what the HRE was doing. Was they were taking cultural processes where the culture reproduces itself. They were changing the crops. They weren't changing the crops. They were changing the symbols. They were changing the temple. They were taking out key members of society and implanting their own. Um, and imprinting on these people this new way of life through imperialism. Um, and so like, what's my source? Uh, I read the Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets, and I found the secrets. So yeah. Um. Anyways, yeah. That's what they were doing, right? So like, um. What was I gonna say? Yeah. Whatever. Somewhat sadistic. He thus justifies. So okay. So there's like a few things that like the colonized go through that like really fuck with them, right? So there's the mark of the plural. Um, the mark of the plural is a way that the colonizer may separate the colonized from himself, right? Because as contradictory and strange this reality is, it is the perfect justification for any form of violence that ensures the status quo. So nothing this guy does makes any real sense. It's all about like violently disrupting the way of life of these people to the point where they submit or leave or die. And so the mark of the plural is this way in which any attribute, no matter how untrue about the colonized people, um, that gets attributed to them gets attributed to everyone. So it's like a stereotype, right? But it's more than a stereotype. Whereas a stereotype is like a widely held cultural belief that like stands on its own via like its own historical value and sees itself replicated in data because of the colonialism that exists systematically. You know, you're choosing who's making judgments, you're choosing who the researcher is, you're choosing who works at the office, you're choosing who records what, you're choosing who like the administrators are, right? This is much more like a general thing. So it's like if anything happens, it's the right of the colonizer. It's the self stated right of the colonizer to view everyone like equally suspiciously, equally lazy, equally terrible, and it's a means of doling out punishments, right? It is the law. The mark of the plural is something that the colonized must bear, and it's a lot like the mark of undead, from FromSoft's game Dark Souls, in the sense that upon being branded with this mark of the plural, it is essentially a contest of endurance, to see how long one can endure this decimating treatment before rebelling in some way. You know, you can rebel by fighting against these colonial powers to retake your lands, or to reinstate your powers, to assure to yourself and others that you have like agency in your life, that you're not going fucking insane, and that all spiritualism hasn't turned against you. And what do you call it? You can rebel against your own people. You can be that Uncle Tom. You can be that person who tries to stand out by becoming like this race traitor, by being someone who's like an informant for these imperial powers, by even doing something as simply as being complacent with the system, because once you're complacent with colonialism, you're subjecting yourself to the reward system of colonialism. You've changed your personality. You no longer follow your religion. You no longer reproduce your culture. You no longer work for the livelihood of others. You only work for the livelihood of yourself. And so colonialism has succeeded in that way. They have replaced your reality with its own, and along with it goes your memory, your history, and any sort of claim that you have to a free life. Um, so yeah, it's pretty serious. So there's the mark of the plural, and then there's like something else. The shadows. Memory is purely is not a purely mental. Almost like a curse. Curses upon the. Okay. What else is it? So there's that, and then something else. Yeah, the hospitality. They're like, oh, these people are like goods. They bring with them their own decisions. We must work with these people. Work with the plural. I should have killed them on the beach. Let's see. Sword becoming an object. Nah, because once you do that, you've changed yourself. Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because it's your new nature. Like, the environment around you is defined by these people killing. All right. So common knowledge ideology is right. They can't have any pride. They can't enrich themselves through education. War defines the commodity, which defines their desires, because as you may know, we've evolved to have a material culture and an oral history, and that has had untold consequences for all societies, even to today, because culture changes to manipulate people faster than people evolve. Um, and let me tell you, the people going through this natural selection are not gonna change that. Um, Maybe if people were more chill, more calculating, it would be different, but it's not. Um, no longer has to do so. This is more about the psychological experience of being colonized. How it causes you to appear to be stupid because history does not involve you, so you lose that perceived intimacy. You lose any sort of perceivable future reward, and by being subjected to this depersonalized history, um, you're asked to accept the contradictions that come along with it, which get remedied by the status quo and the material situations of these people. They get jobs, they get roles in life that exonerate them for accepting this sort of individualistic notion of themselves. But at this point in history, it's like mass production hasn't taken over in a way, like industrialism hasn't like taken over in a way to where people can just like willy-nilly like do anything in a society. Like there's some form of individuation, but at the end of the day, there is that inkling of individualism that causes people to be subjected to these systems of violence or involve themselves in these systems of violence. Um, Talk about Mythopoeia. I mean, it is a form of fascism. It really is. Qualified workers. Right. There's number games. Okay, I don't remember where it is, but there are like two or three main things. There was like a 3-pointer. It was incredibly intrinsic to this person's argument about the portrait of the colonized, and I'm looking for it, but I can't find it. I know where it is, but I was looking for something that I highlighted. So I thought I would have highlighted at least like one of the questions. Albert Memmi writes in this really self-contradictory way where he just kind of expects you to like enjoy how he's writing. This book was published in the 70s though, so systemic injustice was, well, racist as fuck. Racist as fuck and fucking despicable. And if anyone tried to speak up, some fucking chode who never had to fucking see war married some other fucking chode who enjoyed the war, and you know they had a bunch of chode kids and they work a fucking office job or some bullshit. Man, why'd I pick up my phone? Something I needed to look at. Alright, I thought someone was calling me. It's annoying. Okay. Man, where is this thing? Must be in this chapter. Oh yeah, so Albert Memmi writes in this sort of way that like is very self-contradictory, and he just kind of expects you to like accept it, and so it's very like self-contradictory, and you just kind of like it's very confusing because he kind of expects you to like do the math as you read. Like, you wouldn't believe that. You wouldn't believe that because you believe this. You wouldn't believe that because you believe this. You know, that's a sign that you come from one of these lineages of people who are forced to face this, and you know, like have to also ascend through a system that punishes you for being seen that way. You know, one of the most anti-colonial actions that I see people missing today is this notion that we can just live lives where we don't expect to be told the truth, where we don't expect things to make sense, and where we never have to argue or establish our point like in any given way. Like it's kind of how this genocide happened. So like it's really fucking annoying. Where is this? Okay, it depends on, so it should be like here. Your history. Guerrilla warfare changed how the colonialists thought, or how the colonizer thought. Observances. War chains. It came out in khaki. And the attributes of citizenship. Yeah, it's just a whole lot of like. Okay, I could give less of a shit. It's my life, man. Like, ask me what's wrong with my life. Maybe then I'll start telling you about someone else's. Like, that's just kind of how it goes with this kind of thing. Like, you want to be honest, I see this happening today. So there's sort of like this anachronism to asking me like exactly what's happening here. Because we're reading the text because it applies to today. All right, I give up. There is like some 3-prong thing that he mentioned during this part. This might have even been like during the portrait of the colonizer. That I just sort of decided to like ignore because the framework it provided was very like anti-human, but the questions it posed allowed people to have a serious discussion of what's happening, which is just a horrible way to present information, like a really backwards ancient way of presenting information that arose as a response to the civil rights movement by the neoliberal minority that exists in this country that continues to insist to you through their control of mass media that they're the majority thinkers here, even though nothing they say means anything that it means when they write it, when people say it. So people hear what they say through something that was written from a completely different point of view, from a completely different set of life events that are shared throughout the culture. And so the meaning of those words gets distorted through the medium and then transported as sweet nothings to the people who repeat it. You get this nomic crisis where people can't agree on what they mean, but can certainly agree that certain parts of the status quo must be maintained, which is just one bad day away from turning into Nazi Germany. As soon as people demand perpetual revolution, and the same sources of information seem so trustworthy and seem to oppose everything that they oppose, the necessary destruction, the destruction of this silence between people ends. Organization ends, and there's no hope for people to attain what they feel that they promise themselves and each other through their actions. Why? Because they just go fucking on and off all day. It's just so these people create these dialectical and what's the word? Dialectical and phonetic systems in order to confuse people about what they're hearing as they're hearing it, to manipulate this sort of like on-off behavior so people stop learning too. It's a really horrific thing, and it's happening to this day. So yeah, that's really all there is to say about it. I'm just gonna try to crack this one out, maybe go to bed around 12 or 1 so I can digest properly, and yeah. I should finish this tonight. I should be able to finish this tonight. I know what's happening. Because they beat the fuck out of him for fucking thinking.
I curse you. I curse you. I curse you. I curse you. I curse you.
Fuck it, man. Yeah, I hate to say it, but it's kind of why I like Legend of Zelda. It's kind of why I like all these Bing Bong names and all these little shows and stuff. Because the door is not a door, it's a wall. And the wall is the same color as the other. But when you look at the wall and you hit it with your sword, it makes a new sound. That's Legend of Zelda. That's the kind of comparison people need to work on. Everything needs to be harder for people. Nothing should be easy. No victory should be granted in these games. Games need to be elevated to a new level. If the path forward is being subjected to utter primacy, then we must be swift in obtaining the correct instrumentality, which is why people give a fuck so much about making people primitive with this new media, because the media represents the instrumentality by psychically, I'm getting way too deep into it. I need to read this right now. You can watch one of my awesome book streams, one of my fun reading times, where we go through The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. Read The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. Use my blog as cliff notes, and you will succeed. Just as I have. Fucking peasant. Or you could pollute like a sicko. Yeah, at any given point you can just gaslight one of these people. Like at any given point you can gaslight one of these people. Isn't that like illegal? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Many such cases. Practice CBT, practice DBT. You become what you say you are. Oh my. Then they take the kids and they're like, what if we just sent you off somewhere where you can make something of yourself? You're the chief's daughter, right? Why don't you go to England? Oops, did I just ruin Pocahontas? Eat shit, bitch. God, now I really want to watch Pocahontas. I like that part, Pocahontas, where he's like this. Goes, what is that? You know? How does that even work? How would that work? You know what I'm talking about, right? The part in Pocahontas where that guy from Red Dead Redemption is like, it's like doing this and he can't shoot her. And it's like dwindling down. I always thought, like, is he supposed to pull the trigger like when it's on the embers in there or something? Like, is that how it works? Like, it's my dog. Alright, wait one sec. And then there's the part. See, what's really puzzling about this, right, is there's a part where someone misfires, right? Like, I'm not mistaken, right? Like, there is a part in the movie, where they do this and they're fighting or some shit, and the thing misfires. So you have this expectation, right, that if he pulls it at the right time, right, it'll fucking do something, right? But it doesn't. They can misfire. Like, it does the predictable thing. Like, it goes in there and it fucking hits the spark or whatever, but it doesn't fire. And it's very apparent that he made a mistake. Like, it's such a beautiful movie, dude. Or like, I don't know. I like the raccoon. He moves like a little slinky. But raccoons are like that, aren't they? They go. They're kind of like that. Yeah. Anyways. That's why I hate it when people talk during the movie. Could you imagine if, like, you had that dynamic with someone and then you both started, like, fucking talking during movies? You'd ruin every movie for each other. You can just fucking watch a movie. You think if I went to New York, they'd show me the Jewish tunnels? Like, I went to, like, a really Hasidic part of New York. Be like, I want to see your Jewish tunnels. They're like, you're not Jewish. I'm like, no, I was raised Catholic. We will not show you the tunnels. I'm like, but I can't take my birthright trip because the place is a hot zone. I can't take. Like, you have a birthright trip? And I'm like, yeah. And I pull out my papers, and they're like, oh. All right, you gotta be fucking cool about this. You gotta be fucking cool about it while you're down there. All right, and you gotta wear one of these. They just produce a yarmulke out of their pocket. Like, you gotta wear one of these. I'm like, do you have a hair clip? Like, yeah. Yeah. He pulls one out of his, like, right behind his ear. He's like, all right. All right. Anyway. Linguistic grammar. Yeah, why would anyone need to enforce an alphabet if like phonetics were like already a standard thing? Like I don't think people really communicate that much anymore. I think it's kind of disgusting. You've taken letters and you've extended them into this packaged good, which is like this like horrible meme dialect. Like I can cite a lot of memes, okay, but I'm citing memes, all right? I'm not saying them as if they're reality. Like it's like actually kind of horrible how people talk these days. It's bad for them. That's why I kept saying like very early on in the streaming, like, you know, most of you guys would have been my classmates in honors, but you're so like fucked in the head. That's not what I said. But you're like so like obsessed with this like lifestyle that like it psychically or it psychologically impacts you. Like any of you would have been the diligently studying like classmates that I had, you know, but you're not because you just give it up all the time. It's like people are smarter than they know. I wish people understood that. Like, you know, just stop with the nonsense. Stop with the systems of violence and just be smart. It's like, oh, man, if, here's a hypothetical question. If you could learn any language instantly, what would it be? Well, that sounds like someone wants to be smart. If you could have $1 million right now, what would you spend it on? Well, it sounds like someone wants to be able to make $1 million. They should probably be smarter, maybe save more. So, like, what would you do if you could go anywhere in the world? It's like, well, maybe if they cooperated, if people could cooperate and understand the mutual benefits of like inviting each other to these places, it would happen more. But it doesn't. It really doesn't because of this like the psychic ramifications of history. I think people have so much more potential than they know, and then they discover it later in life in a way to where they feel like disdain, like for real, like they get pissed, like they're like, I can't believe I'm so fucking stupid because I wasn't as smart as you were when you were 30 and doing your live streams, and I'm 80 now. I'm like, dude, you've been like this the whole time. Like, just tell someone, man. Be a real one for me. Be a G man. Just tell someone for me. Like for real. It's like one of the saddest things I have to live with. I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, this guy's gonna say he's disappointed. I don't do that. There's nothing to be disappointed about. Like you're not hurting anyone. You're you're continuing this cycle, this like vicious cycle that doesn't help you, and it's like it's sad. It actually just makes me upset, like to the point where like I feel hurt. So yeah, like I don't know, like be nice. Be nice if people wanted to do this for themselves, but it's I don't when's that gonna happen? When's that gonna happen? As soon as people find me, I guess. Oh boy. There's that division of learning again. Almost like we're just trapped here. Like you and me. Should we break something? I think you just broke my heart. Those guys are awesome. I love those videos, man. Oh, those guys are awesome. Yeah, but for real, it's pretty. One of the biggest challenges, but definitely one that I'm gonna be addressing in my lifetime. And that's like a reason to live. How would I put this? That is a reason to live. Like to extend this like kind of education and like mental clarity to people. Like how fun it is to be me cannot be understated. I get so much out of everything. And it's like I just need like light touches even. just to like stay in contact with things, and it's like it makes me love everything more because I want to, you know? And so like it's just it's about making everything better. It's like totally a reason to live. And I think anyone can participate. Like, you know, like it's not hard to love and be loved. Most people are loved on a scale that they just can't perceive. You know, there's always someone out there who cares. That's why you're still here. Anyways. It's because they beat the fuck out of him, right? Just gonna have to write these down. I mean, it's that and more. Because, like, you know, he's perpetuating the mark of the plural. He's becoming the colonizer by using the colonizer's technology of erasing history. Um, it's moving from one form of history and how it's lived very rapidly to another form of a history and how it's lived without any care for the integrity of that history. It's a terrible thing. Also, they beat the fuck out of him to make an example out of him. And then if they have someone that they like as a writer, they bring him in, kind of like the Seattle music scene. But yeah, yeah. Forlong's dick looks like this now. It's actually kind of scary. Broke the whole thing. think it's pretty safe to apply the mark of the plural throughout this this part. I want to look at that section one more time because there's just like one more thing. Just like one more thing. What is this? Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. The colonizers. They're so annoying. All right. They can't take this shit to court. Universe? It's a good quote. His universe is that of the vanquished. Okay. I'm just gonna use my creativity. Sure. Okay. Yeah, 'cause sugar got big in England. Not like coffee or heroin. No. Fucking no. That's not what the money's about. It's not a matter of profit, it's a matter of dominion.
If we can find a secret passage to China, we can strike a deal. Ha 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 ha. Right?
Alright. Off I go then. How can it be positive if I'm not in the will? Then get rid of legacies. Like, come on, man. Like, yeah, that's, because, one of his key points. So call him biased, because maybe his analytical lens was developed in a labor camp, during the reign of Nazi Germany. But, this guy's whole life is kind of defined by altruism being co-opted by this like fascist movement, right? So to say, did the colonizer not open roads, build hospitals and schools? No, it's actually that third thing that he briefly mentions at the beginning, where there are people who are neither colonizer nor colonized, but may be viewed as one or the other by these groups, right? That get swept into this conflict. He's talking about altruism. He's talking about people who do good for goodness sake, who really change this fucking world, get things fucking moving. Like, no, the colonizer didn't do that. That was an altruist, you fucking idiot. You just smartphone. The state gives me smartphone because my friends in junior high are gonna make fun of me. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Oh, you would have been bored. You would have been observing it. I don't know. What would have happened? They would have strip mined Spain. And Spain would have just never left. Boats are illegal. Boats are illegal because giant sea monsters occupy the Atlantic. No one's ever been able to cross the Atlantic because the Krakens of the world protected these people. So no one ever took a boat to the New World. There's no way to get to it through a landmass, and so there would just be like higher air quality, and people would have probably, yeah, like Europe would probably be like some kind of arid wasteland of from the horrific mismanagement of resources on that side of the world. Um who knows what would have been happening in China, but yeah, it would have been pretty bad. I think everyone would have died. And the fucking animals would have eaten their bodies and shit them out to fertilize new forests. That's what would have happened. But the sea monsters, those selfish shitheads decided to evolve to have 2 feet. Fucking dips. Anyways, that's not a constructive way of addressing these things. Like, you can't change what's happened. It's immutable. You can't erase what's happened because the status quo goes unexplained. It's really just this double bind that only the elite of the elite find themselves adhering to, you know? It's an odd thing to see normal people doing that because they could be doing fucking work. Yeah. And then there's, oh, did I hear work? Yeah. It's like, man, you didn't ask. Didn't even attempt to form the fucking question. And then people go, oh, mark of the plural. Well, that one guy was a fucking dip, so you must be a fucking dip. What, you don't take your dip drink every day? I love coffee. Oh, I fixed my fucking dipitude. I'm gonna fucking dip some more. Oh, did you just say something that I didn't find entertaining? A dip. 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 Anyways. You know how I feel about that. Alright. It would be misdirected anger. When's the last time anyone said that? Misdirected anger. God damn, that's all I seem to see these days. When are we gonna have a cultural conversation about misdirected anger again? I like that one. Misdirected anger. The thought that you could be directing your anger in the wrong place. Well, you have a smartphone for that now. YouTube recommendations is telling you where to direct your fucking anger. Fucking social media is telling you where to direct your fucking anger. Sick fucking thing. Yeah, man. Ridiculous what they do out there. Misdirected anger. Bring back misdirected anger. When are they gonna bring back misdirected anger? That was like the one thing we could say to my mom growing up. Like, what the hell is happening out there without misdirected anger? What's going on? Oh, so he's proposing a timeline in which the steam engine was invented, but I don't know, these precious vessels remained, I don't know, well kept and engineered in ways that we could only call innovation today. Um, without all the ego. Okay, that's fresh. Keep saying this. And then he contradicts himself until he starts mentioning Arabs. That is this guy's writing style. He's crazy. He's fucking crazy. But this is Dark Souls. This is literally where the fuck Dark Souls is from. Time flows very strangely in Lordran. And suddenly the fight against Gwyn. that a that a dog? Is that a Dark Souls, bro? Gwyn Grin. Bro. Gwyn Grin. Not a fucking coincidence. Not a freaking coincidence, dude. He's charging up for another blast. He's gonna do another key blast here. And the air, he's so obsessed with the colonization of the Middle East. This guy hates White Pharaoh. He hates Saddam. Not Saddam. Fucking, oh my god, Al Qaeda. He's not a big fan. Not the biggest fan of Al Qaeda. Alright, that sounds wrong. What is it? Not, oh my god, not the biggest fan of Osama bin Laden, okay? Not the biggest fan of Osama bin Laden. That's how this guy sounds. Not the biggest fan of Osama bin Laden, actually. Where are the professional centers of apprenticeship? Yo, that shit's in Baki. They put that in Baki. Wait, hold up.
Now they start miming things.
And shut. Bro. They put that shit in Baki, bro. Dead ass. Yes. Yes. You change your mind about one thing and suddenly the whole system starts to fall apart. That's the strength of CBT. My brain. Jesus. What torture I endured. Alright, anyways. You have to understand this was published in 1974. So we're talking about World War One.
Granted.
Alright. It's the last section. Or the last chapter. Gotta stand up for a sec.
The path forward is wide.
The body and face of the colonizer are not the British side. It's not without damage that one carries the weight of such a slog of misfortune. The colonizer's face is the earliest one of an oppressor. That of his victim certainly does not express calm and harmony.
Just like my fucking parents.
He does not exist in accordance with colonial myth, but he is nevertheless recognized being a creature of oppression. He is bound to the creature of want. That's whoa. Alright, I have not seen that feature yet. Bound. Bound is the important word to use there.
You want this? Sonic, can I have some of your shit, mate? Can I have some of your shit, mate?
eyes are like starting to blur. It's awesome. It's really, it's great. I'm gonna kill a motherfucker and like for real. Alright, and then all that is sinful must be planted. Like marijuana. Love. 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 Loss and gain are the same, bro. It's like when someone brakes on the freeway. What did I do? I think I self-isolate. Do I self-isolate? That's really weird. It's like saying people show up to fucking talk to me or something. Like, self isolate. Self isolate. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because um these people operate in terms these people operate in terms that like um are defined by like the colonizer's own behavior. So like in elementary school, right? Like I had friends from like two schools because around the 3rd grade I switched over to this other school to do like a gifted program or whatever. So I have my neighborhood friends and I have like my gifted program friends. So my gifted program friends are like, some of them are just like fucking assholes, just like real fucking bitches who just like never admit that despite all the time I spend with them that I'm not like one of their close friends. Like just treat me like fucking like fucking bully me and just like otherwise like be a fucking asshole. Like a person had a reputation for being an asshole entering junior high. Even like everyone fucking knew that guy was an asshole. But they were my friend, just sort of by virtue of how we were seated in class. No, my fucking sleeves are tearing. Oh, how burrs! I have burrs on my fucking sleeves. That's so annoying. Anyways, so I make friends with this kid because they sit me next to him on the first day of class, and like, you know, just doing what I fucking do, I start talking. They did this with the girl that I like ended up like coming out with at the same time, the one who showed me 420 Chan. They also sat me next to them. I was like this little talk box that they could just like put next to kids and like have them like have some kind of like exposure to people or something. Um and yeah, like I remember I was like, "Oh, okay, you know what I'll do today is while my friends are over, we'll go around the corner, talk to my other friend." And that didn't go well because the asshole friend was like fucking antisocial and didn't want to like branch out. The asshole friend is the same friend that I tried to kill when I was like 10 years old in a swimming pool. Cuz I was just like so mad at them for like bullying me all the time or whatever. um which I guess is like a lot like this sort of like colonizer experience that like people talk about or whatever. Like it really is, that's being colonized. It's just like dealing with bullshit like that. That guy ended up being like really devout, like a really devout Christian, which is where a lot of like Korean supremacy, like racial supremacy notions come from, is sort of like this constant contact with the culture, and these like little whispers from the internet that kids carry around about people being like one way or another, and oh, no one gets me, but also I'm like the fucking smartest guy ever. Oh, but I'm just so stupid, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, you sound like a white fucker, like you sound like KKK member right now. Like that's the kind of racism I was subjected to growing up, and it was all very close contact, and these were all people I was very amicable with. um and so like, yeah, it's weird. It's weird seeing that kind of experience reflected in this book. So I guess, so it was a bad experience, and at that point I had made a rule for myself. I had learned, if you will, that you can't mix friend groups. I had become the colonizer, because then I was perpetuating the alienation in daily life that allows this capitalist system to prevail, right? Because I don't try to talk to more people, like I would fail English every other year in high school, right? So I would like, I went into the school, I tested into IB, I did honors English. I failed honors English, so I took it over this summer. I made a friend. That guy stayed. I stayed friends with that guy. Throughout sophomore year, but then I was also in like a IB English, or what is it, like a honors English class, right? And so like, or a college prep English class, right? And I remember like I felt fucking stunned. Like I barely talked to anyone. There's, I don't know why, but there's always just like some kid that just like turns around, starts talking to me about video games, and like that's like the only interaction I ever have with any of those people. But like I go in there and I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck to say. Like I don't know how to relate to any of these people. Like that's self-destruction. Like is to be around people who are like your neighbors and your peers who like live in the same world as you, who like become like the community members that like your fate is judged upon, like in this like sort of democracy. Like those are the people who you should be talking to. You should be talking to any of these people, right? But like there's this certain destruction of the self that people come to accept. I was heavily into video games, like heavily into video games, dude. But the video games destroyed that part of me that like would allow me to seek answers for my problems. Like, yeah, okay, I'm reading all these like guides, and I'm reading all these like plot lines, and I'm reading all these Wikipedia articles about video games and anime and stuff like that, and I'm spoiling plot points for myself, and I don't give a fuck. But I never like think like that these functions of my body, that being antisocial, like that I could like get any help online for that sort of thing. And I think my parents even sort of destroyed that for me, because like I would get assigned these essays, and they had to be persuasive essays. Okay, you hear how I fucking talk, okay? You hear how much things have to be proven to me to like for me to like engage with them. You know I've been excluded from history from the fucking book. And like the essay that they teach in elementary school, it's not an analytical essay. It's not they don't teach you to write a fucking book report. They don't teach you to they don't teach you to write a story. They don't teach you to do anything like that. The state wants you to be able to write a persuasive essay, or someone in the fucking system wants you to be able to write a persuasive essay. And that traumatized me. That traumatized me all the way through high school. You know how I said I had that teacher in high school um who like was really cool and like helped me like um even like feel like I was like allowed to put words on the paper. I got one of the types of AP essays. Luckily it wasn't on the AP exam that year. Is a persuasive essay, a document based persuasive essay, where you have to like look at these you have to look at these you know pieces of evidence that they give you, and they're like, okay, construct an argument using these pieces of evidence, and my brain just shuts off. Like I got a detention for it in class. It was like the one detention I ever got in high school. Like I would get sent to the vice principal's office all the time in elementary school. I was always lying about shit. I was always like fucking saying mean shit to kids. I was always like just like there were a couple times that I physically accosted people, not in like a fighting kind of way, but like in a kind of like kids don't really know kind of way or whatever. um and yeah, like I would just I out of all the honors kids, like I think I got in the most trouble. um I was also like maybe third from the bottom in the pecking order, if that means anything to you. um what do you call it? And I'm also the only motherfucker to say it, so you know anyways, yeah, like I would get into a lot of trouble. These persuasive essays ruined me, man. Like I would come home to do my homework, and I'd be like, I have to write an essay, and I would sit at the table, and my mom would just like fucking yell at me and like just like grill me, and I'd be like, an essay? I don't know why, but I think this is something maybe I asked my parents to help me with. So I'm like, hey, mom and dad, can you help me with the essay? They're no help. They're like, they talk to me about the subject, and I'm like, I can talk about the subject. I can say things about this, right? But if I go to write, I'm not I'm not gonna have 5 sentences per paragraph. I'm not going to have 3 arguments and a conclusion. I don't know what to put into an introduction. I say all these things and they're like, "Okay, write what you say." And it's like I know that what I'm saying isn't worth writing. It's not something that communicates something to other people. Like I knew that, and every year they would assign me these persuasive essays, and every year the violence would escalate. And it just, there's so much property damage and like so much yelling at me and shit like that. And it's like, this is like, I'm sure I got beat at least once over a persuasive essay. I just can't fucking remember it. If I ever got like physically beaten, it was because I was like antagonizing my siblings, or like because I like spilled juice when I was like 4 years old and it just never stopped. Like, like just stupid fucking things to get beaten over. Sometimes my mom would come home and she'd be like pissed about something while she was out. Like one of the mothers from the neighborhood would like be like spreading rumors about her or some shit, and she would come home and beat me or something. And like, she's a sick fucking place, dude. Like, yeah, like that's destruction of the self. Like when I go to play video games, that's destruction of the self. When I don't seek the information to like bridge these things, like that's destruction of the self. When I don't know how to talk to my teachers about like my issues with like certain types of essays, that's destruction of the self. At some point I agree to destroy myself. Do I agree to it knowing what other options I have? No. But at some point I agreed to destroy myself. If I walk around at school and I see people walking around campus and I look at them and then I look away because I'm only acknowledging their existence, and I don't try to say hi and I don't try to be friendly, like that's destruction of the self, you know? Like, it's not enough that like, people are coming up to me, like I'm not self isolating, right? But like I'm not making life better. Like I'm destroying that like essential social human function. But everyone is. But that's just what it is. That's being colonized. And yeah, man, it's tough. It's so fucking tough, man. Like, I've been doing better. I'm like talking to people older than me at the card shop, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like finally at that age where like, I don't know, like adults don't get pissed at me, or like people older than me who are adults now don't get pissed at me for trying to talk like them. Like, oh man, I shudder at the thought. Oh, all those times you just want to like laugh at something that's funny, or like try to talk like someone else, and they just fucking berate you. It's just like, these fucking shitheads. Like, that's getting fucked up, right? Fuck you. Fucking bullshitter. You're like me. You're like me, but you're a fucking hater. Anyways. I've never understood it. The shrewder the ape, the better he imitates, the more the colonizer becomes irritated. I really just, you know what it is? It's because I don't see spirits most of the time. How do I put this? I don't see things as animate 90% of the time. I don't perceive life with this like cognitive like disposition to like see things as animate. So I can't feel like that like constant intimacy that fuels people's delusions. Um I was you think my mother you think my mother was the first one to traumatize me? Think again. Broke my arm before I could remember. Yeah, talk about repressed memories, dude. Broke my arm before I could remember. What are you gonna say about it? There's some true self within you, and if you don't maintain your life, you will be reduced to this infant state. Which is bullshit. Yeah, I broke my arm before I can remember. I don't perceive things as like fucking animate. I don't see that kind of liveliness in life. The only time I've ever seen it is like when I was in the mountains last Christmas. It was like seeing everything kind of like come alive like that was pretty eye-opening for me. It really nailed down like the idea that um culture seriously perceive like human like qualities in like other objects and like intimate qualities from like objects and things like that. Like yeah, no, I just if I were to watch something move, then it must be animated, you know, like to watch a living thing move is just so like excites me to the point where I want to copy it, right? You don't see me doing that all the time. Maybe there's some instrumentality to that. Maybe my sister saw too many Barbie movies or something, but I don't know. I don't know what they were feeding her at the time. Like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this whole writing style where like you have like a main character and that main character's like various like attributes get personified as like characters and uh like as side characters and antagonists in the story. Like maybe this way of portraying like an inner conflict is just unhealthy for people's minds. You know, I'd believe that like in a hot second. Like yeah, like probably not a good idea to like tell women and children that they're like these side characters because they'll start to see the arrangement which is just like grooming basically. um yeah, kind of fucked up. There's this time like way back when I was like, geez, I had to be maybe like 7 years old. So my sister would have been like 4 years old, right? We went to maybe this is my dad's fault for like telling her she couldn't do something, but like yeah, my parents really were hands off with me. Like my mom wanted me to remember that I was a latchkey kid or something. I don't know. It's fucking weird. Basically, there was this art event at the park that we lived next to, and since we lived near the park, we would get like free vouchers and tickets to basically appease us so that we didn't complain about like the noise or like how crowded it would get or whatever. Um so I got to make this little pot, and I remember like I I got to use like a little mini like pottery wheel, and it was really fun and really cool. And I actually made like a nice little vase, like a little Dark Souls sized pot, you know. It was that big when I was that small, so it was, let me think. So it was like this big when I was like this small. So I must have made a pot that was like maybe this big. Right, and I wrote my name on the bottom. Um and so my sister saw this. I didn't see my sister interact with my dad over this, but like my sister saw this, and like she she scratched out my name off the bottom of the pot. It's just so fucked up to me. Like I remember I like told my parents, and I was like, what the heck? Which, you know, thinking back, it's like, does that even make sense? Like fucking freak. Anyways, yeah, like yeah, I have like scars on my face from times my sister scratched me in the face. Um, Never really got to talk about that. Um, Scars on my arm from places where my mom grabbed me and stuff like that. Like, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, this shit's stupid. These people are fucking dullards that don't know how to do anything. Um, you only stand to benefit from rejecting them. And nowadays they have people like literally degrading themselves by like reducing their notions of communication to like fucking gimmies from fucking smartphone. It's fucking terrible, dude. It's like actually the worst thing. They instruct these people to be criminals, to be the types of people that diminish the value of anything around them, to be people who co-op, to be people who don't see the nuance in things, like anything they can to like ruin these people's brains. And it's pretty horrendous. Like you oh man, I flicky card. That's pretty bad. Okay, I'll be the first to admit that's probably not the first thing I should be thinking about doing, but what's more is I can at least establish myself in some way, right? There's at least some sort of like notion of sanity that comes along with like being able to separate like the sensation from the cognition or whatever. Which I think is important. I think a lot of people think is important. But they don't practice, so they just end up looking like unreasonable to like anyone who's like, oh, I don't know, maybe like willing to try to find a community. Like, who the fuck's gonna look for a community when empty promises is all you need to like keep people around? Like fuck that. Like they do it. They do it. They respect legacy because I don't know. I guess they're just brought in or something because their lack of self-awareness makes them so susceptible to these sorts of diminishment of their value. I hate seeing it everywhere. I hate seeing people like commit these like fucking grave acts for nothing realized. I thought that's what they were doing. Didn't I say that? I said kill yourself a lot, bro. The hell? Woke up. Woke up to people sounding like me talk. Woke up to people sounding like me talk. Just farted, man. talking about modern people again. We're just talking about fascism at this point. It's like, why am I not reading Roger Griffin? I guess because this guy lived through it, you know? That's why. That is precisely why. That is precisely why. Why? Joe, you got it.
Wow. Took fucking forever, and I guess I'll just read this on my own time. So that's the required reading. Yeah. And then we had this one too, but that other one took way longer than I thought it would, cause he's not talking about fucking simple things, dude. Anyways, I'm gonna go to bed in a minute here. Probably just let myself digest for a minute. I guess I know it's productivity maximization hour, but I'm like too tired to be productive. Let's look at the most unhinged recent computer science discoveries.
Beat a Turing Award winner, a dog outperformed IBM's quantum computer, and Valve's video game code is now running on Meta's data centers. These are some of the wildest computer science papers from 2025. This guy is going to help me with Shor's algorithm over here. He just doesn't know it yet. Alright, first 2025 paper. Now, some of the best discoveries are accidental, so this makes this paper kind of one of my favorite ones. Now, picture this. You're an undergraduate computer science student, and you're trying to work on a research proposal for a project. And during your research process, you decide to implement a hash table. No big deal, you create one new that makes sense to you, and so then you present your research to your professor. Now, your professor takes your research and he's reading it and he just drops the paper to the ground, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm about to fail this paper. But instead, he says, oh my gosh, you just beat a Turing Award winner. And this is actually a lot easier than it sounds. So hash tables are kind of like driving through a parking lot. Everybody knows when it's 50% full, this is super simple. You just drive into the parking lot, park right away, you're good to go. But everybody also knows once you start to hit about that 99% capacity, it gets really difficult to find a free parking spot, and you're just driving around and around until you can find that one last available space. Now, in computer science terms, this is called open addressing without reordering. And Andrew Tao, a Turing Award winner, said that the best you can possibly do is big O of 1 over delta. Kripivin, the undergrad student who unintentionally came up with this optimized solution, created a solution that was big O of log squared of 1 over delta. And if you can't just like magically picture that in your mind, don't worry, just look at this graph. Now, the old original Turing Award winning solution is in red, and then the new undergraduate solution is in green. So that's really, really cool. Going back over to our parking lot analogy though, this is kind of like if you took all of the different parking spots and then you separated them into different individual sections. So if you're a car coming in and you're trying to find a free parking spot and you see this one section is full, you can completely skip it and go on to the next section that might have an available slot. Heavy sigh. He doesn't care about what I'm saying. Now, in 2025, they finally published the formal mathematical proof for this particular concept. And I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, wow, well, if this optimized version is now out there and mathematically proven, well, why doesn't every different standard library out there start implementing this technique? Now, unfortunately, mathematical proofs for optimizations don't always equate to actual real optimizations in practice in computer science. So Google's Swiss table, for example, is extremely optimized for the L1 CPU cache. Kind of big surprise that the real world is actually really complicated out there. But you can implement this methodology yourself in your own project for practice, and I definitely highly encourage you to do that. Now it's time for our next 2025 story. And this story is about game developers versus the Linux kernel. When I hold it like this, it just gives me the strongest urge to just throw it. I don't know why. So for years, historically, decades, the CPU scheduler has been built just directly inside of the kernel. And keep in mind, for reference, the CPU scheduler is the thing that decides what runs right here, right now. And so previously, changing the algorithm for the CPU scheduler has been a really complicated.
Alright, I can't do commentary, dude. I'm fucking tired. Someone's gonna fucking
get my ass for third-party content again. All right. Anyways, this has been Productivity Maximization Index. Remember to look out for BXF 20XX Boxfuckers, the 20XX RPG on Steam soon. Thank you. Have a good night.